As Brian mentioned in the opening comments, I've been bugging him for 15 years or so to host one of these music tech summits in New Orleans, and glad that he finally said yes. Unfortunately, y'all all can't be in New Orleans with us due to this COVID-19 thing, but I'm really thrilled that Brian and Melissa and Shoshana and the whole team pulled it off to be able to do it virtually. So it's nice to be here. Next, I'd like to thank my panelists who have joined us today, especially since it was pretty much last minute asks across the board. I'll start with the ladies first. As mentioned, Lisa Alexis is with the City of New Orleans. She is the director of the Office of Cultural Economy. Sherri McConnell is, I guess she's just a consultant now, but she's been my coach and mentor in this advocacy and public policy space for a long time and a good friend. Whenever Reid Martin and I are in the room together, we're Reid squared, but I've known Reid since he was in college, and he is growing one of the most fantastic management companies we've ever had out in New Orleans, and really proud of the work that Mid-Citizen is doing. And he's really a poster child for the kind of economic development activity that we're trying to grow in New Orleans, as is my neighbor and good friend and two-time Grammy winner there, PJ Morton, who moved back to New Orleans a while back and started Morton Records and has been getting nominated and winning Grammys every year, it seems like, since you've been back. So that's a great thing. I just want to start with a couple of comments. Just that, you know, for many years, Brian and Chris Deli and Michael Heck, all in the opening segment, started off talking about New Orleans and the great music resources that we've always had. And over the years, there's been a number of us who have been trying to really grow the industry side of things, and we've made a fair amount of progress in the last few years. And so we wanted to use this panel as an opportunity to talk about some of the things that have been happening here locally that we potentially could attract more business to New Orleans, the music business, to let the world know that we're more than just a party town, that we are a town that is ready to do business. We have a whole suite of incentives and business community and banking community behind us, which is kind of a first in the many years that I've been pushing this. And so I want to start with my coach and mentor, Sherri Mack, and ask her to maybe say a few words about, because what's not listed in her little bio and what we described so far is that she spent several years working for Louisiana Economic Development, and she ran the Office of Entertainment Development, Entertainment Industry Development, or Louisiana Entertainment as they call it. And she kind of oversaw the establishment of a lot of the state level incentives related to the film industry, the digital media industry, and the music industry. So Sherri Mack, from your perspective as an economic development person, how do you describe the climate for the growth of the music industry as you see it today, and where we are and how far we've come in the 15 years ago since I met you? And I need to unmute you.
Yeah, well, oh, wait. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, cool. Hey, everybody. Well, certainly, I think the path that the industry or the business community was taking pre-pandemic is even accentuated and probably recognized as the right path, even post-pandemic. So I think I'd like to kind of address it in those terms. First, you know, you asked me to kind of say, you know, what's the environment of the industry? Well, clearly New Orleans, our biggest attribute is our greatest renewable natural resource, right, Reid? Our music, our musicians. And if we think of it as a natural resource, and like we do with sugarcane or cotton or oil, let's think about how we can take that tremendous resource and add value to it, simple economic development strategy. And that's about intellectual property. So the fact that we have a small city who has such a high concentration of very talented musicians of all genres is our first and foremost asset. Secondly, of course, you know, there's a market now. It's not just the people who come to New Orleans, but technology has provided this opportunity for anybody in the world to listen to our music. And so it further accentuates the need for our musicians to understand how to take advantage of that technology and monetize their IP. But our brand globally is so strong. Certainly the attendance at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival's virtual jazz festing in place is a good illustration of that. They had over 20,000 attendees from around the world listening to past performances of Jazz Fest. And if any of you did not tune into that, I certainly recommend that. It was therapeutic at a minimum, and that's at wwoz.org. But again, it represents a huge global market, and that adds a definite opportunity for us. I would also suggest that, the state has recognized the value in its creative economy. And with that, they have devised numerous incentives that incentivize the production of content, whether it's film, video games, and music. Even live performance is now incentivized. You actually get money back for the cost of producing music in the state. And couple that with a new incentive that incentivizes W-2 jobs, kind of those back office jobs that aren't necessarily in the control room or in the actual production of content, but the Reid Martins of the world and his company. Those jobs are now incentivized. So we've got this incredible suite of incentives that further provide an opportunity for companies to recognize the value of doing business in Louisiana. And then, of course, there's this convergence of all these different entertainment sectors: film, music, interactive video game development. We're the fastest growing video game community in the Southeast. And that may well have changed to, the South or the half of North America. Very quickly growing. We've got major video game companies, and they're starting to use Louisiana music. We were the first to offer incentives for the production of film and television. They're using Louisiana music. We've got people who are actually making a living producing music for films that are produced in the state. So they're both incentivized from the music incentive as well as the film incentive. And then finally, I would say that, New Orleans is the center of the creative universe. And it's a great place to live. And it has a lower cost of living and a lower cost of doing business. And so for a company who's interested in coming to New Orleans to do business, everything's in place. You've got a market that's untapped, new talent. You've got a market, a brand that is global, that recognizes it. You've got incentives to produce that music. You've got incentives for your back office staff. And you've got a government who is doing everything they can to support those efforts. So I think we're in a great place with regard to where we can go with the music industry. I think one of the first things we need to do is educate our own musicians with regard to how valuable their music is. And again, I think the pandemic has really shone a light on the value of music in so many ways, things that we kind of knew, but everybody feels it right now. And so we should be leveraging that very soon.
Awesome, thanks. So
Sure.
I want to shift over to Lisa at the City of New Orleans. Can you give us a little snapshot of sort of how your office is set up to help develop or help do sort of business development for new companies here in New Orleans? And then you and I had a great conversation yesterday about how this whole COVID-19 could potentially help the musicians in New Orleans, but companies around locally, and just in general, how we can pivot a little bit to utilize some of this new media technology to extend our brand. Hold on, you're not, I need to unmute you. Let me see, sorry, I thought I unmuted you. Can you try again? Hold on, we're not hearing you. Hold on a second. Can y'all hear her, or is it just me?
Oh, we can't hear.
Okay, let me,
Everybody should be unmuted now.
Okay, try it again, Lisa.
Oh, wait.
Melissa, let us know when she's ready to go.
We'll do just a sec. Sorry about that. Actually, I think maybe she dropped from the room.
No, I'm seeing her on the screen.
Yeah, she's there. It might be something on
her end, maybe.
on her end, yeah.
Lisa, can you check your microphone and see if it's plugged in properly? It's showing that you're muted. Sorry for the technical difficulties, y'all.
Apologies, yes. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Why don't I move on? And
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Wait, try it again, Lisa.
She's not muted.
Yeah,
It might be on your end, Lisa.
I don't think it's a muted thing. It looks like her mic is just not working somehow.
Yeah.
Lisa, check your mic and then I'll move on and we'll come back to you. So, PJ.
Yes, sir.
Welcome
For Reid.
Tell us a little bit about why, you're on top of the world, dude. You were out in LA, you've been in Atlanta. What drew you home?
Yeah, I was at a bit of a crossroads, I guess. I was in LA and like you said, things were going great, a part of this big pop band. But I found myself wanting more and wanting to, think of legacy and what I was going to leave. The reason I left New Orleans is because I didn't see a path forward for my career. And I wasn't a jazz musician. I wasn't a rapper. And at that time, those were the two outlets. So I had to leave, like many had to leave before me. But it kind of happened. Maroon played Jazz Fest 2013. And it was my first time home now after being around the world. And all of a sudden it hit me, our charm and what made New Orleans so special. And I realized that the same issues that existed when I grew up here and was living here and wanted to be an artist still existed. But then I was in a different position now. And instead of complaining about it, I started to see nothing but opportunity, see nothing but just a wealth of talent, and which has always been there. But I just saw the opportunity now, like you say, with technically us being able to be anywhere in the world to do what we do. Why not be in this amazing place that I had to leave, but these artists now don't have to leave if they don't want to. So a lot of questions. The main question I got when I got home was, man, what you doing back here? You left LA to come. And I'm like, man, I see it. It's something about being in it. Sometimes you can't see it, but being away from it and now having eyes from outside, I saw all the special things that makes New Orleans what it is. And I feel like I've been, it's one of the better decisions I made in my career. It got me focused and back to the foundation of why I fell in love with music in the first place. And now I'm just meeting artists all the time who are who have what it takes, and now I can kind of help to assist and get them to the world. Give this New Orleans sauce to the world.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Lisa, you back up yet?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Oh, okay. Great.
So tell us, let's go back to your question of, following up on what Sherri had said about, from the city standpoint, how does your office in the city view music business development? How are y'all involved? What are the kind of things that we should know about why New Orleans is the place to do business?
I'll put an exclamation point on what Sherri said. She said everything. I concur with all she has said. And the Office of Cultural Economy is really focused on three things: creating opportunities for our artists, stimulating the economy, starting in the artist economy in their households, and then the greater good of the city and state and globe as well, and then preserving the traditions that we have here in New Orleans. So what we're working towards is supporting and building a cultural platform for our artists. We have the talent, we have the resources, we have the incentives, and what we believe we need is a cultural platform to afford the artists to be able to showcase their intellectual property more and have a way to monetize that directly with them and their businesses and agents, rather than maybe being reactive and waiting on an opportunity or a gig, but really being more in the initiating standpoint of it. So we want to work to set up a cultural platform for that to live and thrive. The city of New Orleans is also going forward and creating, we already have 13 sister city agreements across the world, and we're creating more. And of course, it's our culture in which everyone wants to embrace and connect with. So we want to not only build here in the city of New Orleans for our artists, but afford the opportunities for us to export the artists and the art into other countries and places as well.
Awesome. Not to put you on the spot, so to speak, but I know your office has a person dedicated to film, or maybe a couple of people dedicated to film. Are there any plans or things in the works to have a similar staff person at the city level to really focus on music?
That is being explored at this time. And as we are in COVID and everyone is looking at budgets, all of that is being considered and explored. And with the fact that film is so strong and robust here in our state, we're trying to find ways as we reopen to hopefully find a way to afford that entity, because it's needed. It's needed.
Yeah, agreed. I see our time is quickly going away, but I want to turn to Reid Martin, because Reid is building an amazing young company here that's just kicking butt. Reid, tell us a little bit about Mid-Citizen Management and what you're up to.
Sure. I guess in some, first off, just to piggyback off the on these incentives, like we kind of, we started our company structure around these incentives, that we're talking about at both the local and the state level. And so, we're grateful for those. And I think we're a company that shows that those are working, and it's worth setting up a company here to take advantage of those. But, I want to echo what PJ said. There was a point, where I was, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was a tour manager for a while and wanted to get into management, and was looking at applying for jobs in New York or Los Angeles or, another big hub and just working at a management company, but had the same feeling that PJ did, and saw that there's plenty of opportunity here in New Orleans. And with my partner Tavia, she and I started this a few years ago. We combined our rosters of artists that we had managed, and we're just, we try and find. We started off just signing acts that felt a little bit left of center in New Orleans. And
who are some of those acts?
Sweet Crude, Tank and the Bangas, Big Frida,
All
Naughty
of
Professor.
them.
Everybody but PJ. No. And so what's happened is that there was a big need for that in New Orleans. There wasn't really. There are folks down here. I don't want to negate that, but there is a need for good artist management in New Orleans. That's the foundation. That's the first block of a career for artists trying to build their team. And what happened was that grew really fast for us, and we started to attract talent from outside of New Orleans. And so our last 3 signings have been like mid-level indie bands that aren't based here. And we've always kind of talked about how New Orleans artists have to find representation, whether it's their label, their agent, their manager from outside of New Orleans, and that money then, you know, that leaves the city, that leaves the state. And what we're trying to reverse is start a company here that is not only representing talent in Louisiana, but also is attracting talent from outside of the state. And those commission dollars are now coming into a company that's based here in Louisiana. And so we're getting hit hard the same way everybody else is by the pandemic, but we're not laying anybody off. We're figuring out how to make it through and be stronger for it. And we're trying to sign artists. We just launched our own label division too. So it's like the fact that you've got Morton Records here. We're also trying to put out music by our clients, and then at some point, develop that infrastructure more. And as we grow, we sign artists, we'll add divisions, we'll be able to provide more services, over the next several years and decades as we grow. But I think what you see with what PJ is developing, with what we're trying to do here, is build an infrastructure that can compete, with the bigger companies and the major hubs. And I don't want necessarily to be like a New York or Los Angeles. I don't see that for us. But our goal has always been to have the contacts to the international music industry as a whole. And when we find talent, to have the same amount of clout and ability to break those artists as somebody else. So I want to keep growing, and I want to keep being able to hire people in Louisiana. I want to obviously sign artists from out of state, but I want to be able to continue to sign artists that are from here and nurture that, when we see something that makes sense with the context of what we feel that we're good at. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's a growing thing, but we're still, even though times are tough, we're actively trying to keep growing. So.
Thanks. Well, the powers that be gave us 5 extra minutes. It's the previous panel.
I will say, Reid, I do have a 1 o'clock conference call I got to jump on.
Well, if you got to jump. And we will have a breakout room after this. And also, there's a New Orleans space on the Discord, so I'll hang out there as well.
Awesome.
But one quick thing before you got to jump, Reid, and I know, PJ, you got another thing for Billboard or something you're doing, or Essence. Reid, from your perspective, how do you think the outside world looks at New Orleans right now as a potential place to do business? Is that perception from the party town changing to one that you can do business?
I think it is changing a little bit, and I mean that sincerely. I think it's still a curiosity, but the thing that I hear the most is, oh man, I love New Orleans. I love coming to Jazz Fest or whatever it is, and you get to live there and do your business. And I'm like, yeah. And it's a great segue for me to talk about what we're growing here and all the other startups that are trying to develop here too. I think there is a real opportunity over the next decade for us to grow something. And I think we will, I think it just takes more folks recognizing that, but I'm confident that, the perception of the city is one that is a growing music industry city and living up to its reputation as a true culture hub in this country.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Reid. I know you got to run to another one. PJ, from the production standpoint, I know you're starting to bring artists in here to produce records here. Are you finding that folks from the outside, whether it's Monica, JoJo, whoever you're working with, are they looking to soak up some of that New Orleans sauce? Are you using some local musicians? Are they wanting to come down here and work in your studio?
Yeah.
Is that changing? I know that's something you really want to try and grow.
That was like an initiative. Like I dressed it up as, I just want you to come and work in New Orleans, but that was a conscious effort for people to come and see it differently. The same way I came back and saw it with different eyes. So when I got invited to do sessions in LA or New York, I'm like, well, why don't you just bring them down to New Orleans? The hotels are more affordable. Just being there is more affordable than blocking out a studio in New York or LA. Just come here. And then when the artists get here, they see a benefit in getting away from their normal everyday thing in those industry towns. And and then we got the quality studios, you know, so we're able to work and at the same level. So I saw it with Monica, I saw it with JoJo, even me when I started making my records here. It just creates a different environment, but it's a work environment now. You know, it's not just party now. It's like you have that in a close vicinity, and you have the vibe all around. I just think it's a special thing that you can't get anywhere else, and people have really started to see the value. But the key is getting them here to work. That's what I found. Not getting them down for Jazz Fest, you know, not as far as work is concerned, but getting them down here the same time they would be in LA or New York for a session, and then they leave here like, oh, I gotta. When can I come back and work? You know.
That's awesome. And I know we're quickly running out of time, but I want to take a second just to make sure that the folks on the video chat know that there's an effort that Michael Heck mentioned at the opening comments at the beginning of the day about an initiative called the New Orleans Music Economy Initiative, and PJ and myself and Sherri Mack, a number of folks have been involved with that from the get-go. We launched it a couple of years ago. And it's really the first time that the business community, the elected leadership, the banking community, a lot of the nonprofit area, the city, have all come together as a unit with a unified voice to really start working on some overarching issues like doing true outreach biz dev across the board, attracting new businesses and different kinds of meetups. And this Music Tech event today is one of those examples. You know, we have a couple of new management companies that have moved to town. We've had other kinds of businesses that already moved here. So part of what we're trying to accomplish is an opportunity to really tell that story that New Orleans is open for business, and that we have all of these great assets and incentives to be able to do your business here, and that there's a true support system around. And, you know, I just think that we're in the right place. You know, unfortunately, the COVID-19 kind of thing put a hamper on some of those launch efforts, but keep your eyes out soon. We plan to, we have a website that we're getting ready to launch. It's called NOLAmusic.biz, which will officially launch soon. And it'll be a meeting place for all of these incentives, all of the good news that's going on. And I wish I had more time, but I see the woman with the big hook is coming. She's on screen. That means it must be time to go. But any closing remarks, Sherri Mack or Lisa, y'all want to say anything just to close it out real quick?
I'd just like to say that I look forward to working with everyone here in the city of New Orleans and beyond, nationally and internationally, because we are going to move forward with action steps as it relates to building a cultural platform.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank Melissa and Brian and those folks that have put this together. It's been a very impressive transition to an online conference, and I just wanted to thank them for continuing with this effort and look forward to it being in person next year. But bravo.
Thank you, Sherri.
And I want to thank the panelists, PJ, Reid, who already split, Sherri Mack, and Lisa. And I think we're all gonna transition to a breakout room. So if anybody wants to continue talking about what's going on down here, join us in the breakout room and or over on what do you call it? Discord. Thank you.